everybody, it's Kenny K here again, and I'm giving you a new review from the 90s, which I was trying to do chronologically, but to be honest, the 90s is that was my year. I mean, I was born in 1985. I did not really remember a lot of that time, but the 90s, that was my year. But it's just a lot of bad movies. Yeah, good movies, but a lot of bad movies too. I've got a few movies that are coming that are gonna review, like the it's a re-review but a little bit more in depth, the Candyman, and then I'm gonna do the remake, and that's a little bit less, but it's mostly about real or not and the ambiguous ending, and it has a lot to be spoken about, but this one is called The Night Flyer from Stephen King, written by Stephen King. 1979, directed by Mark Pavia. It gets a 6 on IMDb, good score. Gets a 7.5 for me. I really like this movie. One of my favorite actors of especially the 90s and early 90s is Miguel Ferrer. He was in the sorry, I have to put my camera a little bit bigger. It's on a little angle here. So, yeah. Okay. Okay, now you can't see my fucking face. Fuck. Always. Okay. Now, Miguel Ferrer, he sadly died. Rest in peace. Too young. And shortly after that, this is a little known thing, is David Lynch, the creator of a few movies, always those weird movies, and the series that I really love because it has all the genres in it, from horror to romance, drama, thriller, suspense, mystery, sci-fi, Twin Peaks. He and Mark Foster created it. Miguel Ferrer, from Another Stakeout with Richard Dreyfuss and Emilio Estevez, I believe that his partner was. He had two of them. I think the second one was with Miguel Ferrer. He plays Richard Dees. Then you have Julie Entwistle. Never heard of her again. You don't have a picture of her even on IMDb. She's Catherine Blair. She's basically the new girl, and she is also a little bit of the competition for these. And then you have and she looks an awful lot like Winona Ryder from Alien Resurrection, and I'll put a picture there to kind of give you an example. And then the Merton Morrison, the editor-in-chief. Now, this movie is about these two people, Richard Dees and Catherine Blair, are journalists. And Richard Dees has been the front runner for like 20 of these magazines, always on the front page. And I'm not sure what the magazine's name is, but it's like this tabloid magazine, but they go really, really far. Like Richard Dees took a picture of a dead baby and he wanted to put it in there, and then they got rid of it, and he storms. He's always aggressive. He's really volatile. He storms, Merton's office, the editor chief, and says, "What you did with my fucking picture? You know what I have to do for that?" And then he says, "Next time, Richard, keep the bodies under, let's say, above 14 years old, at least, please, because." So he, I mean, he did took the he's a deep journalist who goes really deep in and takes the most disgusting pictures ever, and he gets the tabloid. He always gets the front page. And the last few years, it's he's a little bit, mm, losing his jive. And this new girl, Catherine Blair, is hired, and the first thing she wants to do is meet with Richard Dees. She follows him to a bar because she thinks she is inspired by him. He's the guy who's been working there, and Dees is like, "You have been following me, yeah, okay, okay." Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy Olsen was a reporter too, a young reporter. I think it's a nickname. I don't know the reference just what Jimmy Olsen was, but it's a nickname. I think also from a beginning journalist. But it's just it doesn't get it. Sit down. Because do I have to? Yes, she says. Okay, sit down. So she asks, "What is the best way to describe?" I think the now I know what the magazine is called Inside View. What's this way to describe? What's the best way to describe your career? He said, uh, "Never believe what you see and never believe what you publish." But
Never believe
you
what you
gotta
publish.
believe, right? No, no, no.
Never publish what you
I'm
believe.
not going too slow. It's never see what you believe and never believe what you publish. And then he started because he got irritated with her, and then he started to start the story of Dottie Walsh. That's the job. Blair, that's the job. Her policeman basically. She committed suicide, and the first one she couldn't handle it. She couldn't handle it because this magazine really gets to you because um, it really sort of goes to the limit. The most awful things that you can imagine. And she couldn't handle it and committed suicide. Got in a bed with a plastic bag over her head, and the first one to take the picture was Richard Dees. He's like he has no emotion. He doesn't care. He got the. He said it was a great headliner. He was laughing, and she was like, "Okay, I'm out of here." And he takes her by the hand and says, "I don't need friends. And if you ever follow me again, you're gonna be bad. Sorry. And just if you want a friend, buy a chow, a chihuahua, and now get the fuck away." So he's an awful person, an awful person. Now the story is actually not about that. So before I go into spoiler territory, this is a really underrated gem, by the way, from Stephen King. It's I think a short story. I'm not sure, but it's an underrated gem. Really, ingenuity. The story is ingenious. Is a genius. I mean, it's never been done actually, and the movie's about a vampire. That can always already said. A vampire that nobody believes is a vampire because Merton, the chief editor, wants to give Dees the story, but he refuses because he doesn't believe this. He says the vampire killer strikes again. He already struck. He always flies in the air with a little Cessna plane, lands in these small remote airports, kills the victims, drains their blood, and then goes to a next airport. And these himself also has a Cessna. He has an airplane. He says, "Nah, I can't believe that." And where are the reports and this and that? So Merton gives it to Blair. Now, at some point, he says, he says he's never gonna strike again. It's too obvious. The police is gonna get him. Now there's another murder again, and Merton is smiling and saying he knows why Daisy's coming into his office. He saw that another killing happened. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you get this story, it will be front page material. And he's now okay. I'll take it. And of course, Blair got it, but she, yeah, got tickets to the locations and airplane tickets to the location, and of course she's not the seniority here, and he's being really he's an asshole. He's an asshole. It's like really being sarcastic about stuff. So what happens? He flies to airport where everything happened. He had one called Buck Kendall. He got these. He gets to the corner. He pays people off. You know, he's like this bulldog of a journalist. And this Buck Kendall guy is the first one we see. I think it's the movie starts that way. This airplane, this black Cessna, and he opens the door and he sees all this blood dripping and what the hell? And then the door is slammed against him, and then you see the vampire opening his cape, and when they find his body and Dee sees his body, he has these holes, but like this big, like not tooth-like big, but like nail spikes big. I mean, here it's like this thick, you know. So if this is a vampire, it says this guy has like giant teeth, and the vampire does have. If you see the real vampire, you're gonna say, "Whoa, what the hell is that?" Because he has a human form, of course, and that's how he seduces some people. There are airports where the vampire lands and seduces these people to like where takes a nap, and then they have to clean his plane, and then the night after he kills them, right? There's one kill where he just hits a guy from room to room and then just rips his head off. And when the police got there, the head was lying in the corner. I mean, there's pretty gore. It's a pretty gory movie too, a lot of gory. And the wife is like all, you know, she's in a sort of catatonic state and almost blushing because the vampire can, you know, make you feel good, especially women make you feel loved, and he bites her, just bites her. He doesn't really, he tortures the husband. He lets her die with the bites. Not a drop of blood was found on her. She was completely drained. So before I go any further, because I already sort of told you a lot, but the story is about a vampire who uses his black Cessna plane instead of being a bat and going from place to place, wherever. He goes to private airplanes where a lot of these illegal drug traffickers usually, you know, get, and he kills people there because there's not a lot of people there. It's easy to do, and I never heard a vampire using a plane to kill people in that way. That was, and also the vampire is kind of unique looking if in its true form. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool movie. It's a creepy movie. The journalism is done well. The movie is mostly told by stories, like a police sheriff depicts what happened. These pretends he's from the FBI and shit like that. He's actually, I mean, he's a clever SOB, but he goes over bodies. He's a fucking asshole. That's what he is. He doesn't care. Like, for example, he goes to a cemetery of one of the first victims, and he's so batshit crazy that he cuts his own eye with hand with a knife, smears some blood on a tombstone of the guy who got killed, then kicks it so it's crooked and that it looks like the guy came out of the ground as a vampire, right? So he's really disrespectful. Then the groundskeeper come and he says, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he says, "I'm from the press." Good job being a hero, Tiger. Like he's an asshole. He's an asshole. All the way through the movie, he's an asshole. So you can't. He has no redeeming qualities, but it becomes an obsession. And that was the problem with Dottie Walsh. She had this case about a cult, and it became an obsession. And because it became an obsession, she got so fucked up that she killed herself. And that's what's happening now with these. The editor is trying to get more stories, but he says, "I'm gonna give you the story, god damn it, when I am ready to give you that. Okay? Now fuck off." So he's like, the editor doesn't have anything to say, so he wants to fuck these over and put Blair back on the case. So there's a little friendly competition. So she gets tickets and she does her job. She doesn't like to bribe people, but it's part of that newspaper. And she says it gets easier when you do it, because Merton Morrison, the editor, is actually also a scumbag. He's a scumbag. It's not. It's not all the compassion that he gives Blair the case. It's just to fuck over these, right? So, and he's waiting for some information so they can print the front page. So that's the problem. And Dees doesn't want to give it yet. So he's got all these pictures, all these interviews through a recorder, and he doesn't want to give it yet. And then Merton said, "But we were waiting. We wanted to publicize this already. Make give it a little bit of a boost that it's coming. And no, fuck off." He says, "I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna send you when it's ready. God damn it!" And that's what. So the movie is, first of all, now I'm gonna spoil. Okay, so the movie is great. It has great acting. Miguel Ferrer acts. He's a good actor. He's an underrated actor, and it's a shame because he's a really good actor. He knows he can play a assassin. He can play in Twin Peaks. He's a FBI CSI crime investigator. He can play this journalist, but this obsessed, angry, volatile piece of shit journalist. And I mean, he plays the role well. And then Catherine, that's a shame that she didn't do more, because she does do a great job. She's, as the beginning girl, she's still all fragile, and Dees knows exactly how to manipulate her and things like that. But it's she's good. She's good, and Burton Morrison, I think the guy is. I don't know his name. I've forgotten to write the name of the actor, but he's known. He's known from a few movies. But he likes this so much that playing them against them, and he's also kind of scumbag basically, and he's like, let's put him against them. It's gonna be fun and this and that, and you know what I mean. He's basically being an asshole, but everybody actually in that newspaper, I mean that tabloid, is an asshole. Now the vampire has a name apparently called Dwight Renfield. Now Dwight Renfield was a man that used to be an actor, right? In the early or late 18th centuries, and he was also a pilot, uh, the first planes and things like that, and he disappeared under this weird circumstances, and of course, he was bitten by a vampire. So we're in spoiler territory now. By the way, if you want to quit looking, just turn off the review, come back if you want, see what I think about the end, and then you know, or just leave it here and subscribe if you didn't, and maybe give it a like. It's a great movie. Like I said, it has good acting. It has gore in it, for some gory moments. The It's an original vampire story about a vampire who uses a Cessna plane to move around at night, and then parks it in the daytime, and he, with his hypnosis, he basically controls the people who are there to, the radar towers, the people who's there to see who's landing there. And it has this, no, none of these characters, maybe except Catherine Blair, has redeeming qualities. Blair, because she's still new and innocent, but the rest of them, they're all douchebags. Yeah, right. But let's say Merton Morrison and Miguel and Richard, these are the biggest douchebags, because there are a few. There was a woman. She didn't want to print the babies, the dead babies, and she thought, "You're crazy, right?" I'm like, throw it in the trash, you piece of shit. Right. There are a few with a conscience. Okay, they're working for that tabloid Inside View. Now, um, it's a great story. Like I said, I give it a 7.5. Really, I like this movie. It has that mystery also, that journalism. It's actually a journalistic mystery horror tale, and the gory scenes, you 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 get to see them through somebody telling them, right? And it's interesting. It's really interesting, um, and it has an extreme bombastic ending where a lot of gore is involved. So, um, oh, uh, that's not a vampire. That's a werewolf. Those are the vampire's enemies, right? Look, the tail. Whoops. Okay, so spoilers. Spoilers. Get the fuck away. Spoilers. So there is an airport where he lands. One of the last kill. No, not the last. The second kill, and he says, in this Maine accent, because everything is filmed in Maine. Stephen King, all his movies that he wrote are in Maine. He lives in Maine. Everything is filmed in Maine, and some of them, all of them have that Maine accent. I love that accent. I went to Maine on vacation. It's one of the most beautiful locations in the summertime, at least, that I've seen. It has a lot of woods and trees, and then the ocean, and it's beautiful, peaceful. I even like Bangor, Maine. It's fun, and it's just everybody has a Maine accent. And one guy who he reports and interviews, is the one of the mechanics of these. He only works at daytime. Now he told him that the night shift guy said, "Oh, we got a new plane there, a black Cessna, a night flyer," he says, and that's where the these gets the title, the night flyer from. Yeah, and the night shift guy is like a zombie and washing his plane. It has to be shiny. And then he said there were a bunch of earth and dirt underneath the plane and worms and shit like that. And it's the same guy from Pet Cemetery. The guy who says, I can't do the accent. It's stay away from stay away from the grave, the Indian graveyard, because it's gonna be dangerous. You're gonna die. Stay away, like that.
Inside view.
You know, from
You know it?
Pet Cemetery is the old guy who warns him not to go to the pet cemetery because it's an Indian burial ground. You know that the Wendigo maybe even inhabited, and that's why these bodies come back as sort of Wendigos. It's the same guy, the mechanic. Yeah, the old guy with the eyebrows like they're sticking everywhere. So, now, at some point, like I said, the story about the guy who gets his head just ripped off. I was a couple, and the it's it's funny kind. She's completely in love with him, and went to the hairdresser and did everything to look nice. And at the meantime, she sees her husband being smacked to the window. The bloody hand is smearing the blood from his face. She goes back in. She looks at he's being thrown left to right, and then you hear him the last screeching sound, and that's the sound where basically his head is just ripped off. Then the vampire goes to see the woman, and he takes gentle care of her, just drains of her blood. That's it. And like I said, the police came and found the guy's head on a chair, and the woman wasn't really wounded, only with the bite marks, and she was just drained, but she looked happy with a smile because she was hypnotized by vampires. Hypnotize, especially women, but he can hypnotize guys too to do his bidding. Um, Now, officially, he looks like the actor. There are pictures of him found, old pictures, and he looks the same. He has long black hair. But his real vampire face is it's pretty fucked up. I'm afraid that it's on some of the covers of the DVD, and that's a shame because he only lets you see his face once, and then of course at some point Dees and Blair meet each other because they're at the same hotel, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And then she says, "I've got this and this and this." Oh yeah, what do you got? This and this and this, and then he says, "I got this and this and this," and she said, "I got a police report, everything," and then he says, "Listen, to be honest, I'm stuck. I'm guessing you're stuck too." And she admits it. So you know what? Let's work together. I'll share my front page. Huh? And she says, "No way." And then he says, "It's the best deal you're gonna get, Jimmy," because he keeps calling her Jimmy Olsen. I mean, there's also a car accident where like I said, he's a sensitive prick. He takes pictures of the dead people of the accident to put that as in the magazine that the vampire struck too, but like that. the wounds and all this shit. Like there's a pretty good amount of gore in there. And at some point, they're calling all these small airplanes, these small, airstrips, and no one's seen a black Cessna. And then they have one that they should call, but it's a big airport. It's an airport with bigger airplanes that get you from farther away, not these small Cessnas. And she says, no, he's not gonna strike that. It's too big, because it has like a 50. At that moment, it had 50 or more people working there, or and then 50 passengers. He's calling, and then he's asking, okay, I'm from the blah blah blah, some kind of inspection from airplanes, and he says, did you see a black Cessna with tail number Alpha Lima blah blah blah, some numbers? And the guy says, no, we didn't. He hands up again. So what he does now is fuck Blair over, because like I said, he's an asshole. He basically says, okay, get yourself ready, I'm getting myself ready, and we're going to that airport. Okay, she packs everything in, and then she's looking around, and where's these? These takes a blanket, pulls it over her head, and punches her in the closet, and not in the closet. Like I said, Jimmy, I don't share. I don't work. I work alone. So he goes alone, and then he's saying, remember what Dottie? Then he looked back for a moment, because he's obsessed at this point, obsessed to get that story. But I don't care. I don't care, he says. And he goes, he's entering the airspace of the airport. Then the guy of the flight tower says, okay, watch out, there's a little bit turbulence. And then he says, and then you hear him, what, then you hear all this screaming over the radio, and then he tries to get them back on the CB, on the airplane. And then we hear Dwight Renfield, the vampire, and he says, these, I don't want you here. Turn back now when you still can. And then, of course, Dee's is like, fuck you, I'm gonna get you. So he goes anyway. It's dark inside. Now, the entire airport has been slaughtered. And I mean slaughtered. There's a guy with his head hanging, with a flap on his head. His head off. Some limbs are off. People are all bitten crudely through the neck. Like a guy who's been bitten, and his head is on a frying pan. A guy who was a hamburger fast food vendor. I mean, everybody's dead. This is a grand massacre. Like 100 people or so. He killed 100 people, and then he finds a chain in the guy's wound, which is in the where the guy was bitten, and he pulls out a cross, a golden cross. So apparently this vampire has no problem with crosses. Now what happens is, Dees goes to the bathroom, and he said, he's taking pictures, but he says, enough, he says, because he can't take it anymore. This is too much. Like 100 dead people, right? It fucks you up, right? So he goes to the bathroom to puke, and then you get this cool scene. You get this scene that somebody's entering the bathroom, then the mirrors burst, except his one. And then he sees, and it's a funny scene actually. The vampire is looking through the window. He doesn't see the vampire, because vampires don't have an image. in the wind in mirrors, right? And you see him peeing, but he's peeing blood. So you see in the urinal blood peeing. Then it goes to these, and you see his creepy fingers.
So
I admire you.
for now at least,
You are
this
just
is your last chance, my would-be
trying to
biographer.
get to your target.
Open your camera, or I'll do it.
But his finger has this gray skin and this long nails.
Besides, I fed well tonight.
Pictures of this.
So very well.
Give me the camera.
But listen
Give me the
closely, my
camera now.
inquisitive friend, because I say this only once.
Takes out film,
Do not
destroys
follow
the
me
film,
anymore,
destroys the
or
camera.
I will swallow you whole. That much, I promise.
With Neil tonight, yeah, of course he had a good fucking deal tonight because he killed like 100 people, sucked them all, drained them all. So yeah, why shouldn't he? Why not these? You know. Then now, don't follow me anymore. Enough. And so he goes away. Then he's like, fuck this. And then he gets again that obsessed side, and he says, Renfield, show yourself. I want you to show yourself. And Renfield stops, turns around. I knew this was gonna happen. It was inevitable. You're like me. You just need to know. I always needed to know. And then you see the horrible face of this vampire. It looks like a bat face with these giant, and then you see the giant teeth. He had these like hair, but are like this thick, and he cries, and to him is like, well, then he bites in his wrist, puts these on his wrist, and take the blood of the vampire, and then he goes. Now these starts to hallucinate, and everything is black and white. Mist is coming, and all the bodies that died, and it's a creepy scene. They come back alive with wide eyes, creepy eyes, and with vampire teeth, and they're all attacking him. Now he's taking an axe. He starts to put axes in those people, chopping them all in pieces and pieces. And Blair arrives with the cops. Now, there is the story. So what happens is, you see Dee's hacking everybody in pieces, and then he sees Blair with the cops, and he thinks that she's a vampire too, and he attacks her, and the police blasts him away. He's dead, and Blair sees Renfield going to his plane in normal human face, and he watches, and he does this from the blood, and does this, and then he goes away. So she know there was a vampire, but what she did was she reversed it. So what she did was, vampire was actually journalistic maniac who pretended to be vampire. That's the front story, and with Blair's face on the front story. So with Dee's body shot down. So the ending is pretty genius, actually. The vampire kind of frames him in a way, and yeah, and he becomes the so-called vampire killer, but because everybody knows vampires don't exist, but Blair knows, she saw him, you know. So it's a cool ending. And she gets the front page, her first front page. And I think a lot of people are happy to be rid of these because he was like I said, an asshole. But a very interesting movie to see. I recommend it 100%. It's an underrated gem. It's something that really underrated, really really underrated. Um, Maybe you can find it on YouTube for free. I'm not sure, but it's a really interesting story because it's like it's not horror all the way. It's more of a horror mystery in from a journalist's point of view story, and then through confessions from interviewees, you get to see what happened, right, to these people. So you get to see the gore when the vampire kills somebody. And like I said, the ending is an epic scene where the vampire just goes on town on 100 people in a big airport and just kills everybody. And then that last scene where he's just hacking everybody to pieces. That's pretty. It's the vampire gave him the option to leave, but his obsession from he wants to see his face, he wants to know who he is. Then he find then eventually the vampire says, "Okay, but if you see it, he can come back," and he gives him the choice. He shows his fucked up face as a vampire because he looks like normal as a human. He looks like a suave guy, you know. But Deez fucked himself, and kind of a deserved ending for Deez, and a deserved ending for Blair because she was pushed aside. She was, fucked over, and but still, that entire tabloid thing inside View is a piece of shit. So the editor is a piece of shit, the chief editor. The tabloid is a piece of shit. They use these extremely graphic scenes, and they always take the most extreme things. Serial killers, they take pictures of their victims without asking permission of the bereaved, and it's just the people are grieving, and it's an asshole tabloid, yeah. So, but okay, Blair got what she wanted because Blair was a girl who wanted to work there, but she actually wanted to work for the bigger newspapers like the Wall Street Journal or something like that. But she wanted to climb up. That was her idea. But I don't think she liked the job really well because she made it's almost like she becomes a new Deez at the end because she takes a picture of Deez and she basically blames everything on Deez. He's the killer, so she frames him in a way. So she's the new female Deez, maybe, who knows? Not that girl that just wants to rise up and take, get a chance for a good newspaper, but not a tabloid magazine. And like I said, Inside View is all about the macabre, the macabre, the insane. That's what that thing is. That's just fucked up. It's like Fangoria in real time. So, but it's a great movie. I like that journalism, that mystery, that going from place to place to get the puzzles to get closer to the vampire. There's also a scene where the vampire gives Deez a Bloody Mary, and it's under the napkin says, "Get out, stay away." He says, and then something like that. It's yeah, it's the cool scenes in there. He just doesn't want him in the neighborhood. He gets multiple. Warnings, but he still keeps going, and yeah, his obsessiveness is eventually his demise. Good movie, 100% good movie. Check it out. Subscribe if you didn't. It's free. Have a like button if you like it. That's your choice. I see you for the next time. Kenny signing off. Bye.